I get that question very commonly, a couple dozen letters a night. What can I do? There is no formula. You know, there are a lot of things you can do.
There's two good reasons why the species may not survive very long. So again, you got some Martian looking at what's going on here. They wouldn't put high odds on the survival of the species. One of those is nuclear weapons. I mean, there could be a nuclear war almost any time. In fact, it's kind of like a miracle that we survived since Nagasaki without a nuclear war. It's come awfully close many times. I won't run through the record, but much too many for any rational person to expect. And it continues. So take, say, Obama the other day. Obama made a nice speech about reducing nuclear weapons. Okay, that's good. In the same speech, he said we're going to go ahead with the so-called missile defense programs in Czechoslovakia and Poland. All right, that increases the threat of nuclear war for obvious reasons. Everyone on all sides is aware that so-called missile defense is a first strike weapon. It's the only thing it could conceivably do, if it were ever to work, is to stop a deterrent strike, never stop a first strike. So it could conceivably stop a deterrent if it ever worked, which it doesn't. Now, the Russians understand that as well as the Americans. In fact, if they don't understand it, they can read it in American strategic analysis journals, where they can read a detailed explanation of why the missile defense system is a potential threat to the Soviet deterrent. Okay, if there's a threat to the Soviet deterrent, what they're going to do is build up offensive military capacity to get around it, which is exactly what they're doing, of course. That increases the threat of nuclear war, of maybe by accident. If you have systems on high alert, that they come really close to accidents very frequently, maybe stopped by human intervention in the last 2 minutes or something. So we're consciously increasing the threat of nuclear war. And there are many other cases. Now, let's take a major case. We just had the NATO summit, okay? Think about NATO for a minute. Somebody wanted some other topics to work on. Take NATO. Why does NATO exist? Okay. Now, during the Cold War, there was a kind of a rationale. I mean, you could believe it or not, but it had a rationale that wasn't total imbecility. It was supposed to be there to protect ourselves from a Russian attack. Was there a possibility of a Russian attack? You know, probably not, but at least there's some kind of a credible rationale. Well, you know, after the Soviet Union disappeared, what's the rationale? I mean, there isn't any. And take a look at what happened. I mean, as the Soviet Union collapsed, Gorbachev, Russian premier, made an astonishing concession to the United States. He agreed to allow a unified Germany to be, of course, militarized, and also to join a hostile military alliance, NATO. Now that's astonishing. You just look at the history of the past century. I mean, Germany alone practically destroyed Russia several times in the century. Now he's saying militarized Germany, main power in Europe, can join a hostile military alliance led by the United States. Amazing concession. But he insisted on a quid pro quo and got it. He insisted that the Bush administration, this is Bush 1, agree that, the words they used, that NATO would not expand 1 inch to the east. Okay, that gives Russia kind of a buffer zone. And that was agreed upon. It's a pledge by the United States. Gorbachev also proposed a nuclear weapons-free zone from the Arctic down to the Mediterranean, which would again reduce the threat of accidental conflict or some other kind of conflict. The U.S. never even responded to that, as far as I know, and it never happened. All right, then Clinton came in. One of Clinton's first acts was to violate that pledge and expand NATO to the east. Okay, that, the Clinton administration, people like Stroh Talbot say that, who was in charge of Eastern Europe, say, well, we had to do that to get the Eastern European states to join the European Union. But that's just not true. There's no connection between joining the European Union and being a member of NATO. I mean, there's a lot of states, Austria, Finland, Sweden, are part of the European Union, but they're not part of NATO. So, okay, you want the Eastern European states in the European Union, makes some sense. It's got nothing to do with NATO. Expanding NATO to the east is just a seriously aggressive act, which significantly threatens Russia, so of course they reacted by expanding offensive military capacity. Then Bush came along with his aggressive militarism and it expanded even further. And now it's expanded still further by Obama, by insisting on putting systems in Eastern Europe which can only be understood. You know, it's not even a worst-case analysis. The only rational interpretation of them is as a threat to the Soviet deterrent, which is going to increase tensions. Well, you know, it's not the only example, but there's case after case where actions are being taken which increase the threat of nuclear war, and that's terminal. You know, nothing much is going to survive a nuclear war. There are many other examples. That's one case, and the other case is environmental destruction, which is creeping along. You know, it's not like imminent and total the way a nuclear war is, but it's going to be severe. Nobody knows the exact details, but everybody knows that the longer you wait, the worse it's going to be. And it could be very severe. Again, a lot of uncertainties, but all the uncertainties look bad, and most of them look pretty bad. So that's two good reasons why the species is not unlikely to survive.